Hey everyone, another story interesting about history. Um, I love history, and it's something I'm doing. You always see something I'm doing here, like something I see in history. I tell the story about and stuff. I want to live something that for my niece and my nephews that they can look back what I told the story of the time of it's true story or not. But these are the true stories. I do look at real truths of what our history is about. And sometimes in the future, they don't read our history of learning. History is good. But onward with my story here. Um, they reported a German sub sunk World War One, the U-boat, a bonanza of historians. I'm seeing the picture here. Now, British archaeologists recently discovered more than 40 German U-boats sunk during World War One off the coast of England. Now, they are in a race against time to learn the secrets hidden in their watery graves. Now, on the old game show, What's My Line, Briton Mark Dunkley may have been described with the following words. He does what many adventures around the world can only dream of doing. Now, Dunkley is the underwater archaeologist who dived for lost treasures. Now, his most recently discovered were anything from not too eerie, but on the seafloor along with southern and eastern coast of the UK. Dunkley was three of the other divers have found one of the largest graveyards in the world's ocean. Now, 41 Germans and three English submarines from World War One must have suddenly sunk with their crews still on board, causing many sailors to die in a horrifying way. Now, either by drowning or suffocating in the cramped, airtight submarines. Now, back then, diesels were used to keep them running. We know how diesel smells and stuff during that time. You get all that other oil and all that nasty stuff. You don't want to can't hardly breathe and stuff. So several U-boats with the German Imperial Navy are still considered missing today. Now let's provide details of which of the U-boats the German Navy forces had lost by the time World War One ended in 1918. But it was completely unclear what happened. For example, the UB-17 under the command of a naval lieutenant Albert Bronshirt with a crew of 21, or were the 27-member crew of the UC-21 used as mine laning. Now, some of these kids today don't understand mine laying mines in the water. They're like a big, say, one of those big, large balls they use on cranes. That's what those type size of landmines in the water. U-boats had to watch what they do in the water now. But now there's things have changed. Dunkley and his team um, are looking at the divers found UB-17 off the England's coast near the country of Suffolk. Now, UC-21 sunk nearby. The fate of many other submarines, especially those that had suddenly disappeared in the last 2 years of war, can now be considered known. Now, although sunken U-boats are relatively close to the coast, the depth of no more than 15 meters, now that's 50 feet, the diving expedition will undoubtedly find remains of sailors with the German Imperial Navy inside the wreck. In the language of archaeologists, such finds are referred to disaster samples. In case of divers will search for signs of crewmen that died inside the U-boat. Now the British could see if particular iron, iron, iron of history, that those measures are now benefiting the heritage of their former enemies, such as the Germans attack civilians targets as World War One. Now, British propaganda referred to the subs as baby killers. Many have forgotten how successful the German U-boat fleet was for a time. Assessment that has by no means intend to glorify the German attack, but in fact, one of the goals of the most recent English Heritage Project is to remind people that although we might have more familiar with the submarine warfare of World War II, the ships also caused considered destruction in previous world wars. Now, we all know here in the United States back in World War II, German subboats were outside our territory, waiting to destroy any of our supply ships to get to us during World War II in the Europe and Asian wars at the time of Japan. So we know there's subs we sunk during the time out there somewhere in our territory that which we don't know about. We still can look in the deep, dark deeps, but indeed, the advantage of this most popular German caused great losses to their enemies against World War One of the Great Britain. Through the torpedo strike against the Royal Merchant Navy at the beginning of the war, they were only 28 U-boats under the supreme commander of Kaiser Wilhelm II. Now, a tiny number compared to Allies' fleet, because Germans at the time they were just starting to break way of their technology to get farther and advance during World War II. Since during World War II, Hitler built the first jet fighters, but they kept them in Berlin. History records that they could have used them in other places that they could have won the war at the time, but luckily Hitler did not go beyond Berlin. Now, at first, many political decision makers in Berlin were unclear about exactly how the military devices were, which were still Navy at the time, but could be used. Grand Admiral Alfred van Driftis has such low opinion in presence of the steel diving vessel that has even referred to them as secondary weapons. Now, Operation Order signed by Kaiser Wilhelm, July 30th, 1914, also signed the second role to the U-boat first. Now, under the order, they were to be used primarily to engage hostile ships or Navy battles with Imperial high fleets, which has been upgraded considered at great cost. Now, but the German U-boats sank 3 English armored cruisers and Briton erupt in the German Empire for still relatively untested from the naval warfare. A large number of volunteers signed up for the submarine duty, even though serving the cramped cabins were particular suicide missions at the time, especially comparing with the types of underwater vessels used during World War II, even more so today, submarines. But all in all, there were in fact some 187, almost half of 380 U-boats used in the German Navy in World War I were lost. Now, since the race time, colleagues have examined the wreck um, ultrasound sonar to allow them to see the measuring wall thickness and determine the extent to which corrosion has already eaten away all the ship's hull. Now, measuring to secure vessels at urgent needs, Dunkley said, since the U-boat graveyard at sea is gradually deteriorating, the time of essence for archaeologists under strict guidelines under the UNESCO Convention for Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage, the World War I wrecks sitting on the seafloor are currently not considered archaeological artifacts deserving special protection now. Currently just shy of 100 years required to attain the status. For this reason, Dunkley team is trying to whisk as many secrets as possible from the rest our coming months. In case there were mines, torpedoes, or torn large holes in the vessels, the archaeologists can peer inside. When this is not the case, robotic vehicles can cut a hatch of a steel coffin and go inside. But so treating the crew remains is also complied by the law. The site is considered a grave site. Nevertheless, the archaeologists don't want to mess with the opportunity to try to recover a sign of sailors in underwater craft. Perhaps we can find a cup or a sign with a name on it, Dunkley said. That would, if what captain was on these ships, on the subs, that'd be good. They know they can look back in the history of, hey, this captain was this. We can look back, we figure out where and when he was. I'm thinking if they do that, they can look to the captain and they can figure out what crew was already on that boat. Pretty much, I could probably look that up as quickly. Who's on what boat went down during World War I and stuff. But Chicago has World War II U-boat sub from our time. It's in Chicago Museum. But in February 1917, Imperial Navy had altered its strategy and was now torpedoing and firing guns at the British commercial ships on large scales, providing the freighters with a warship escort as well, using airships and aircrafts to spot enemy ships from above. So, historians are divided over whether the convoy system ultimately saved the United Kingdom from the defeat, or rather it was the United States enter the war of April 6, 1917. Or what could it be that would break their backs? But therefore, before then, the British had relied on creativity to fend off U-boats and other ships, and the hulls of their own ship were painted confusing patterns designed by the artists of Royal Academy in London. But there is no historical evidence to provide that measures saving even a single ship from the German U-boats. But the same thing during World War II. It just depends on how we got them during World War II too. But that's about it. That's pretty good history, and I hope our kids in the future can look back on what our real history is about, and they can look it up. But history is real fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye now. Really?